These are the final images of Loretta Saunders captured in Halifax that morning. She was a 26-year-old Inuk student, and not long after this moment, she disappeared. So what exactly happened after the last time Loretta was seen on camera? Loretta Saunders was 26 years old that year. She was an Inuk woman from Labrador and was studying in the Honors Criminology program at St. Mary's University in Halifax. To her family and friends, Loretta was a young woman with a clear sense of direction, nearing the end of her student years and trying to build a more stable future for herself. At that point, the most important thing was not that Loretta would later appear in a criminal case file. She was still a student living in the middle of unfinished plans, academic goals she had not yet completed, and a path she had pursued very seriously. Loretta's life at that time was still moving forward, just like many other young people trying to get through the final stage of university and begin a new chapter. But this story became especially striking because of the work Loretta was doing. Her research focused on Indigenous women and girls who had gone missing or been killed in Canada. That was not just an academic subject on paper. It was an issue that had lasted for many years, tied to the pain of many Indigenous families, and it was also one of the most sensitive issues in Canadian society. That is why, when people look back at the entire case, they do not only remember Loretta as a victim, they also remember the heavy irony at the center of this story. A young woman trying to understand and name a crisis, only to later be pulled into that very crisis herself. And that is also why the case of Loretta Saunders drew attention, not only because of what happened, but because of what it reflected about violence against Indigenous women in Canada. On the morning of February 13th, 2014, Loretta Saunders was last seen in the Cowie Hill Road area of Halifax. From the outside, it looked like a very ordinary moment in a very ordinary day. Nothing in that final image suggested that not long afterward, Loretta's name would be tied to a case that shocked people across Canada. But later, that very morning became one of the most important points in the entire story. It was the last time Loretta could be placed in a clear time and place. After that moment, everything began to change. Contact gradually stopped. Information became fragmented, and what at first might have looked like a hard-to-explain delay began to turn into an alarming disappearance. In many cases, a camera captures only a few brief seconds, but sometimes those few seconds become the line between ordinary life and the chain of events that follows. For Loretta, the final image in Halifax carried exactly that meaning. It was not just a time marker in the case file. It was the last point where her life was still tied to a familiar rhythm before every trace began to fall into a void. Looking back from the outcome of the case, that moment feels far heavier, because after the last time she was seen, Loretta's story no longer followed the path a 26-year-old student should have still been on. It turned into a search, and then into an investigation in which every small detail had to be pieced together to answer the biggest question: what happened to Loretta Saunders after that morning? By February 17th, 2014, Loretta Saunders' family officially reported her missing. That was the point when the fear was no longer about a delay of a few extra hours or an explanation arriving late. The silence had now lasted long enough to become a sign that something was truly wrong. For Loretta's loved ones, this was not the kind of disappearance that could be easily dismissed. She was still in school, still had plans ahead of her, and there was no clear reason for her to walk away from her life without an explanation. The longer they waited, the heavier the lack of information became. Every time there was no call and no message, the sense of dread grew a little more. From the moment she was reported missing, Loretta's story began to shift. This was no longer only a private family worry. It became an official search where every timestamp and every small detail began to carry far more weight. That final morning in Halifax was no longer just an ordinary moment, but the starting point of a chain of unanswered questions. The hardest part at this stage was that no one knew where the search would lead. Loretta's family was still caught in the space between hope and fear. But just one day later, the case took an even more troubling turn when a major lead suddenly appeared far from Halifax. On February 18, 2014, the search for Loretta Saunders suddenly entered a different phase when her car was found in Harrow, Ontario. From Halifax to Ontario is a very long distance, and the mere fact that her car appeared there completely changed how the case was viewed. This no longer looked like a hard-to-explain loss of contact within familiar surroundings. The story now stretched across multiple locations, and that made everything far more serious. Up to that point, the family had still been trying to hold on to hope that Loretta might be found safe. But when property directly tied to her appeared far from the last place she had been seen, the question was no longer only where Loretta was. Now, what investigators had to focus on was who had taken the car that far and how it had happened. From this lead, the case began to take on the clearer shape of a serious criminal investigation. The car was no longer just the property of a missing person. It became a piece of evidence showing that after that final morning in Halifax, a specific chain of actions had taken place. And as investigators followed that lead, the focus of the case began to narrow toward the people directly connected to the car. That was the moment the rhythm of the story changed completely. The search was no longer only about Loretta's disappearance, but about reconstructing what had happened after the last time she was seen. And from here, two names would gradually move to the center of the entire case file. After Loretta Saunders' car was found in Harrow, Ontario, the investigation was no longer focused only on finding a missing person. From that lead, the case file began to focus on two people who appeared in connection with the car: Blake Leggett and Victoria Henneberry. Both were arrested after the car was found, and from that point on, the investigation gradually shifted toward clarifying each person's role in the days when Loretta disappeared. This was the stage where the picture of the case began to change more clearly. Before that, the biggest gap was still that no one knew where Loretta was. But when property directly tied to her was found far from Halifax, and then led to specific names, investigators finally had something to hold on to. What had begun as worry and suspicion gradually became a chain of facts that could be checked, compared, and connected. For Loretta's family, this was an especially heavy stage, because the more leads appeared, the more they understood that the case might be moving in a far more serious direction than they had originally hoped. The car had been found, people connected to it were starting to appear in the case file, but Loretta herself had still not been found. The gap between what had been discovered and the one thing that still mattered most made the pressure around the case rise very quickly. By this point, the search no longer looked the way it had in the early days. It was gradually moving out of the framework of a missing person case and closer to the possibility that this was a serious crime. And only a few days later, that investigation reached its most painful point when Loretta was found in New Brunswick. On February 26, 2014, Loretta Saunders' body was found near Salisbury, New Brunswick. From that moment on, the search officially came to an end, and the case was no longer viewed as a missing person case with an unknown cause. It was identified as a homicide. This was the point that changed the meaning of the entire story. In the days before that, even as the leads became more troubling, Loretta's family had still been living in the space between hope and fear. But when she was found in New Brunswick, that waiting ended in the most heartbreaking way. What remained was no longer the question of whether Loretta would return, but the need to fully understand what had happened to her after that final morning in Halifax. The distance between Halifax, Ontario, and New Brunswick also showed that this was not a case confined to a single place. The leads in the case stretched across multiple regions, quickly pushing the file beyond the scope of a local search. And the more people looked back at that sequence of events, the clearer it became that Loretta's disappearance was not a random gap, but the beginning of something far more serious. For the public, this was also the moment when the case truly became shocking on a broad scale. Loretta was not only a young woman who had gone missing, she was a student, a daughter, and someone pursuing research into violence against Indigenous women in Canada. When the search ended this way, her story no longer remained just a criminal case file. It became a loss carrying greater weight for her family, her community, and the broader discussion about the safety of Indigenous women. And after Loretta's body was found, the case entered its final stage: prosecution, trial, and the larger questions that the eventual verdict still could not fully close. Later, both defendants pleaded guilty in the death of Loretta Saunders. Blake Leggett pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, while Victoria Henneberry pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. In April 2015, the court sentenced both to life in prison. Under the ruling, Leggett must wait 25 years before being eligible for parole, while Henneberry must wait 10 years. Legally, that was the point when the case file reached its clearest ending, but for Loretta's family, and for many people who followed the case across Canada, the sentence was not the end of the story. Loretta's death continued to be remembered for years afterward, not only because of the seriousness of the crime, but because of what it reflected. While she was alive, she was researching Indigenous women and girls who had gone missing or been killed in Canada. And in the end, her own name was placed within the very crisis she had been trying to understand. That is also why Loretta Saunders is remembered not only as a victim, but as a name connected to a much larger issue. After her death, scholarships and memorial initiatives bearing Loretta's name were created to support Indigenous women pursuing education. That legacy means her story did not stop at the courtroom, but continues in efforts to help the community and keep her name from disappearing from public memory. And perhaps that is the heaviest part of this entire case. A young student trying to study a social crisis ultimately became part of that very crisis. The verdict closed the question of criminal responsibility, but the larger questions about the safety of Indigenous women, about how cases like this are understood, and about what still needs to change, remain. The case of Loretta Saunders did not just leave behind a painful timeline, but also a larger question about how society views the safety of Indigenous women and the warnings that have existed for a very long time. Looking back at the entire case, what remains memorable is not only the ending of a criminal file, but also the life of a young woman who was trying to study and name the very crisis that she ultimately became part of. This video is presented for educational and informational purposes. All analysis in this video is based on publicly available facts, and we always respect legal principles in every case. Thank you for watching Recent Crimes. Take care, and we will see you in the next video.